Okay, so now we're going to loosen up the igniters. It's the same process. Right clip goes down, push the black pin in, slide the connector off, and then loosen the caps. All right. Again, if you want to give it one more blast of air back here because we couldn't get access to this with the cover on earlier, it would be a good idea. Just give it a blow, get all the dirt. There's a lot of sand and real fine grit back in here. Okay, so the gasket replacement on the plenum is very simple, very straightforward. Because they have been sitting there for a while, they're pretty tight, so I'm just getting a pair of pliers on that little tab, pulling up to break the seal, pulling it out by hand, and then to get these back in there, they do only go one way because of that tab, that notch tab. And I line up the middle section, and then just working my way around, make sure everything's in there nice and tight so that nothing falls out when we put the plenum back onto the top of the engine. Right, everything should be nice and straight, nothing sticking out, nothing crinkled. Alright, so the gaskets have been replaced on the plenum. That's ready to come back on. All the plugs have been replaced. The coil packs are back in place and tightened up and connected. So all the connections on the back end have been made. Now what I'm going to do is clean the top of the cylinder head before I put the plenum back on here. And I am going to be using Simple Green, spraying onto a rag, actually a paper towel, and just cleaning the top surface here. I'm not spraying anything into the air intake. Alright, and you can see the Simple Green does a great job of cleaning up the oil residue. This wasn't too bad by any means, but I guess if it is a lot worse, one of the videos I did see recommended using brake cleaner. You just got to be careful with that. It's pretty toxic. It's a strong solvent. Alright, so I'm going to finish these two up and then we'll start wrestling the plenum back in place. The air intake head's cleaned up. Alright, give a nice clean seat for the new gaskets. I'm going to recheck the back. Connectors are nice and tight, the screws are tight. I'm just going to check all the bolts one more time. Okay, I'm going to get the plenum worked into place a little bit, and the first connectors to do are going to be that one in the back, right, on the back side. I know it's kind of dark back here. And then that one that we had a problem with after we get this thing seated is that other one with the clip, and I'll show you in a second. Alright, so the connector in the back I'm talking about is this guy here. That's the last one to come off, and it's going to be the first one to go back on. It's got that kind of clip you have to slide past the back end of the connector, and then, get the tube slid off. I used a clack claw to push the tube off once I got that spring, that compression connector slid back over. And then you'll do this one here, which is much easier. It just, after you get the plenum seated, that one will slide on. Okay, with the two connectors in the back done, you're going to work the plenum into place, and it should be sitting flat, and the holes, the mounting holes should line up. So the first one I'm going to do is the center bolt. It was the longest one. All right. Okay, so the plenum is on, and the 8 bolts, 6 here, one under the main intake, and then one in the back. Those are all on and tightened. And now I'm going to reestablish the air connector and the air intake itself. And what I did was, as I took stuff off, I made a list. So I wrote down what part I was working on and some notes like the red connectors or a screw, and now I'm going to work in reverse, so I'm not going to miss anything. Okay, when you are absolutely going to need one of these universal socket connectors, it's like a universal joint, because this one in the back is an absolute bear to get at. So I've got like a 9-inch extender and the universal thing on the you know, at the socket end, because there's just no space to get in there. I got in there with a open-ended crescent wrench, but it was very tiny half turns, and then I was able to spin the bolt once I got it loose. Okay, everything's back together. I followed my checklist. Get this all back in. You should also replace the air filter in the air box while you're working on this, since you have it all out. I'm going to leave the cover off for just a second and do a quick startup test to make sure it sounds right. I didn't miss anything. So let's see what happens. Sounds great. So make sure you're accounted for all your tools, put the cover back on, a little cleanup, and you're good to go.